Pwned Passwords version 2 is launched, Intel releases a new firmware update for Spectre, and the net neutrality repeal was published, but the fight is not over. All that coming up now on ThreatWire. Greetings! I am Shannon Morse and this is ThreatWire for February 27, 2018, your summary of the threats to our security, privacy, and internet freedom. You will probably notice that I'm a little bit stuffy today, and you'll obviously notice there is an echo in this episode. We are currently in the midst of a really big move to a new studio space, so not only have I kicked up a whole bunch of dust and I got a sinus infection, but the echo is going to change in the near future. Don't worry about it. For now though, I've got this minimal setup going on. We do have some echo. Don't worry, it's going to be improved soon. And thank you so much to our patrons for helping out with this. It's patreon.com/threatwire. That is the best way to support the show and will help us reach our next goal. And now onto the news. First being Pwned Passwords. So on Thursday of last week, security researcher Troy Hunt announced and launched version 2 of his tool called Pwned Passwords. Version 1 was originally launched 6 months ago with about 320 million passwords, but the updated one has over 500 million. Yeah, that's 500 million passwords that are known to be, as NIST puts it, commonly used, expected, or compromised. So Pwned Passwords now includes data from the onliner spam bot dump, as well as clear text credentials from the dark web. All of the 500 million plus passwords are SHA-1 hashed, which gives them the ability to be easily used, but obfuscated just enough to require a little bit of effort to view the entire database in clear text. A password research collective on Twitter, who goes by the screen name @SinoPrime, found over 3 million entries that were incorrectly entered due to source data issues. So Hunt took this information as well and removed the junk data from the database. Troy also added a counter next to each entry so you can see how many times a password has actually been used, which can also help determine how vulnerable it is. Now, the data is available via his site as a 7-zip direct download or a torrent, which he recommends using the torrent. For security admins, this set could be super useful whenever users update their passwords. By comparing the new password hash to the vulnerable database of hashes, any password that is already determined to be pwned could be blocked, and the user asked to pick a different password. With the help of Cloudflare, a password checker that uses k-anonymity was created. Now, k-anonymity will compare the first 5 characters of SHA-1 hashes to the remaining characters of anything that matches it. So the API will respond with hundreds of possible entries and a count of how many times the password was used. So the original password could be one of those hashes, but the API allows for some anonymity whenever you're searching. If you have no need for the entire database, you can also enter a suspected vulnerable password into haveibeenpwned.com/passwords, which I'll put that link down in the show notes. Or you can also visit passwordsecurity.info, which is a third-party open source query site made by Felix Gifford as an entry into a competition that Troy ran, and enter your password there to see if it's breached. But of course, as with any website, use caution whenever you're choosing to enter a password onto a website. Within 1 day, password manager 1Password added the API to their platform, which will check the hashes against your locally stored passwords to see if there's a match, which means only the first 5 characters of the hash are sent out. The rest are checked locally. That's super secure. Now, if you use 1Password, you can hit Shift-Control-Alt-C or Option-C to open the POC and follow the on-screen prompts to check it out. I think that's pretty cool. Intel has announced their release of updated firmware for the Skylake, Kaby Lake, and Coffee Lake processors, which are the 6th, 7th, and 8th generation of Intel CPUs, which will protect against the Spectre flaw, which was previously released earlier this year. Now, specifically, these updates protect against Spectre Variant 2 attacks. This update will give operating systems the ability to prevent one process from influencing or changing the predictions of another process, which was the whole point and the whole issue with Spectre. Now, Intel has taken a lot of heat for their Spectre and Meltdown CPU updates, notably so because they cause consumer machines to reboot, to crash, or to just error out. Now, while the 6th, 7th, and 8th generation processors now have these fixes being distributed, older processes like Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge and Haswell are still in beta, so we haven't seen anything about those yet. Other CPUs are still in pre-beta, and Intel has not released a statement regarding delivery dates for those firmware updates. Now, while they have released this news, that does not mean that updates are available for consumers just yet. I know, I'm waiting for it too. Most likely, you will still have to wait till Intel's partners and OEM part manufacturers like motherboard manufacturers and desktop suppliers actually push those updates to their users. Intel has also been upping their game as far as vulnerabilities go as a whole. They just launched a new bug bounty program last week with max rewards of up to, get this, $250,000. They also posted a white paper about Google's software fix for Spectre, available via the link below. But this does not make Intel invincible. Intel has had 32 lawsuits filed against them for the attacks, 30 of which are class action lawsuits from consumers. Intel's losses are yet to be determined. Back in December, the FCC voted 3-2 to overrule and abandon net neutrality Title II Open Internet Order. This ruling officially went into the Federal Register on February 22nd and will go into effect on April 23rd, which is 60 days later. Now, you would think that the fight is over and we lost, but it is far from it. 23 different states have petitioned for a judicial review, calling it arbitrary, capricious, and an abuse of discretion, also stating that it violates the Constitution and Communications Act of 1934. Whoa. The Congressional Review Act requires a majority vote in Congress to overturn a ruling, and currently only one vote is required for the review. We are almost there. Battleforthenet.com has created a page dedicated to contacting Congress and getting more senators on board to review and overturn the FCC's ruling. But of course, passing in the House and being signed by the president would require a much more concerted effort. Now, states have also been working on their own net neutrality laws and rules using a loophole in the FCC ruling by basically just not doing business with any ISP that uses these rules to throttle, to push better connections for higher paying partners, or to block competition. The FCC is also facing some reviews and inquiries from the Government Accountability Office and the Inspector General regarding their downplaying of key components and Ajit relationship with ISPs, which is seemingly very close. So it seems that this battle for a free and open internet is not ending, but continuing. It is certainly going to be a very interesting year. If you are a Patreon patron, you can send in your favorite stories on the community tab to get featured on the show, like Joel, who posted this little tidbit. Apparently, Patreon is moving away from app-based two-factor authentication and using SMS only. If you want to let Patreon know why that is a very, very bad move, like I did, and how SMS-based authentication can be stolen by a third party, or how SMS-based authentication only works for one account, unlike app-based, then you can tweet them. They're at Patreon on Twitter. You can tell I'm not salty, not throwing shade either. Really, I'm not. Okay, maybe I am. Everyone who does support ThreatWire over on patreon.com/ThreatWire, y'all are the reason that we can keep on bringing you news every single week. We are on the way and super close to our next goal, which allows me to upgrade some more of the set and our equipment, which, by the way, do you like this new camera? I know I do. It also opens up a live video Q&A just for patrons each and every month. And if you are already a patron, you get access to an audio RSS feed, first looks at show topics, extra pictures, polls, discussions just for patrons, and a lot more. Any little bit helps us grow the show, keep it independent, and you are awesome. Also, check out these amazing fur babies. We got some new ones from our Patreon supporters. Really appreciate those. So make sure to check out those perk levels and keep this show coming completely independent. Of course, you can always share the show as well on your favorite social media page. And with that, I am Shannon Morse, and I will see you on the internet with less echo.
Yeah.